Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to another episode of QRA Live with me, your host, Jimmy Yen, the Acu Sensei. I'm going to make sure my chat is ready to go so I can see your questions. And we are ready to go. So while I'm waiting for you to make a comment into the I'm going to type into the chat any health concerns that you need help with. I can show you a QRA, a quick restorative acupressure technique, or I can go through the process of what to look for, what providers to seek advice from, and what are the steps. What would happen, most importantly, what would happen if you were in our clinic at Achieve Integrative Health in Cedar Park, Texas? Imagine if you were near our clinic, you lived in Austin, you can come to our clinic. What would it look like, right? Many of our subscribers, we get so many comments about, I wish I was live closer to your clinic, so then I would come to your clinic to see my team. And well, a lot of times people live all around the world, and so they can't necessarily fly to our clinic. So I would go through the process of what we would do if you were coming into our clinic and becoming a patient, right? This is the next best thing. I do need to give a disclaimer. I am not a physician. I was not trained to prescribe medication and do surgery. So anything that I say is only our experience of what we have done with our patients. It is not medical advice. Please seek your physician before you do any of the things that I'm about to talk about. Okay. That is a disclaimer I have to tell you in order to keep my channel on YouTube. Otherwise, YouTube and Google will take my channel down. Now, do I normally believe that? Do you? Yes, there's certain things that you do need to see a physician, especially like when you do blood work or imaging. We love blood work. We love imaging. The treatment we don't necessarily love all the time because medication it doesn't cure anything. It just alleviates the symptoms, right? And so I'll leave it at that. Okay. So type into the chat. Thank you for logging in. Type into the chat. Is there something you need help with? There's something chronic concern that you need help with to help navigate so that we can I can go through step by step. Okay. So type into the chat. First come, first serve. As I am waiting for people to type into the chat, I do have my chat on. And let's see. As I'm waiting for people to tap into the chat what they need help with, I'll talk about a couple of things with healthcare, right? So healthcare is different in every different country. And so I personally recently have experienced universal healthcare where everybody gets medical insurance and versus coming from a society, the US, where it's privatized, where it's you have to purchase your own healthcare insurance, right? Now, for different things, most people think, I thought, no, I would say most people, I thought universal healthcare was going to be cheap for the patient, right? It was going to be cheaper for the patient. And for most of the case, it is, but not all the cases. Like my dad was recently in the hospital, had to do some surgery for a polycystic liver disease. And we actually have spent twice as much compared to when my mother-in-law was in the US last year in the hospital after she was hit by a car and broke her tibia, and she had to be in the hospital for 2 weeks, and she had surgery obviously because it broke her tibia. Well, we ended up paying double here in Taiwan. This is under universal healthcare. This is under socialistic healthcare, where everybody gets healthcare and it's supposedly affordable. Well, we actually spent, and we're still not done. We spent twice as much. We spent over 4,000, probably close to 5,000. So actually almost 3 times more than what we spent for my mother-in-law in the US. So my mother-in-law has Medicare, which is the closest thing to universal healthcare or socialistic healthcare here in Taiwan. So we spent about 2,000 out of pocket, 2,000. Now, obviously, the surgery and all that stuff costs a lot more because the hospital billed $500,000 for the surgery, US dollars. But out of pocket, we paid 2,000. For my dad, who's had surgery here in Taiwan under universal healthcare, it has cost us close to 5,000 US dollars, right? So more expensive because many things were not covered. Patient care assistant wasn't covered. Albumin infusions weren't covered. Some dye for contrast wasn't covered, so we had to pay out of pocket. And so that's the difference. So for those of you who think universal healthcare is always cheaper, it's not. I had a rude awakening for that. Okay. All right. So we've got some comments. Awesome. So I've got about, it's 6:09 my time. I've got about till 6:20. So I'm going to go through these. Got 2 people. So thank you. Missy Roper, thank you for commenting. I need help with toe fungus. So toe fungus, is an immune system problem, right? Assuming you have good personal hygiene, I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to assume you have an immune system problem. So it's immune system problem, which allows the fungus to overgrow under your toe, right? So that's one problem. And under the toe, I'm assuming under the toenail, or is it under the toe? I'm assuming it's under toenail fungus, right? Under the toenails. That is also a liver problem, which the liver affects the immune system. So it's an immune system problem. You have to address your immune system, right? One thing you can do, you can soak your foot first in warm Epsom salt. Salt water is a natural antibiotic. It sometimes helps the toe fungus, right? But sometimes it doesn't. But I would start with that. Soak your foot that has a toe fungus in warm Epsom salt every day. I would do it at least twice a day, right when you wake up in the morning and right before you go to sleep at night, right? So do that for 2 weeks and see if that improves. If that doesn't improve it, then I would soak it. You could soak it in vinegar as well, right? I would use like fermented vinegar, like apple cider vinegar, right? Soak it in apple cider vinegar. I would try that. So those are some topical solutions that you can try. If you were to come to our clinic, we would feel your pulse to prescribe you herbs, right? But that would be if you came to our clinic, right? So maybe find someone who can, but you need to focus on your immune system by fixing your digestive system. Your digestive system dictates your immune system. So a lot of it is your diet. You're eating, especially you don't want to eat things that turn into sugar very quickly. So that's any of, like white stuff, white rice, white potato, white bread, white noodle. All of these are sugar, right? Obviously, you don't want to eat processed sugar. You don't want to eat added sugar. Any type of, I would say, bread. We want to stop eating those, right? Because those all contribute to the fungus growth, right? So I would start there. Decrease your sugar intake, right? Eat more vegetables, green vegetables, which are alkaline. When you have some type of toe fungus infection, your body is going to be more acidic. So you want to eat the most alkaline foods, which are vegetables, right? Specifically the cruciferous vegetables. The cruciferous vegetables will free 2 birds with 1 key. Because I just said you have an you have an acidity problem, and then you have a liver problem. The liver, right, controls nails. The liver controls the function of your nails. So you can solve the acidity problem and the liver problem by eating cruciferous vegetables. Why? Cruciferous vegetables specifically help the liver regenerate, restore its function. Those are broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, baby bok choy, right? Those are cruciferous vegetables. Okay, so Missy Roper, report back after you do this for 2 weeks. Okay, all right. Leanne, thank you for joining in. I have terrible osteoarthritis in left hand and wrist. It's extremely painful, especially at night and all night. I had an x-ray and the doctor said it was hard to read. I didn't understand. Yeah, I don't understand what they mean by it's hard to read. You need to maybe go to, I'm assuming, well, actually, it should be a radiologist that reads the x-ray, okay? If the x-ray, now most, I don't know where you live, but like here in Texas, when you get an x-ray, the x-ray is read by a radiologist, and the radiologist sends that and writes a report. The radiologist then sends that report to your physician, whether it be a family physician or an orthopedic surgeon, right? If your family physician cannot understand the x-ray, I would go to a orthopedic surgeon. Or if the radiologist who's supposed to read who's trained to read x-rays, I don't think the radiologist would say that it's hard to read. Okay, then you would need to find a new place to get an x-ray so that a new radiologist could read your report. But I would say go to a orthopedic surgeon if you are going to your family doctor. Okay, just to read the report. Osteoarthritis, most likely what they're looking at, osteoarthritis is your joints and you said your fingers and your left hand and wrist. So wrist, right? That means there's a lot of bones in your wrist, and with every bone they have a little cover. It's cartilage. The cartilage allows us to move our wrist without the clicking and rubbing. It allows bones and bone on bone to move, without any rubbing of the bone, right? So when you overuse it, osteoarthritis is overuse. When you overuse it, then you wear down that cartilage, and then soon you start rubbing bone on bone. So every movement that you rub, right, is painful, right? But yours pain is mostly at night, especially at night. Okay, so there could be a hormonal issue, especially if it's happening at night. I'm assuming it was read by a radiologist in Minnesota. That is weird. You need to go see a new radiologist. Okay. They typically will not say it's hard to read. Yeah, you need to go see a new radiologist. Or because they didn't take it correctly, probably. Maybe they didn't take the position, right? So I'm assuming you're on an anti-inflammatory diet, which is good, an anti-inflammatory diet. Now, there's different types of anti-inflammatory diets, right? I think a few years ago, the paleo diet was so popular that everybody thought it was the magic, it was the perfect diet, which it is not, okay? Especially for osteoarthritis. And then they because the previous paleo diet was more protein based. It was animal protein based. But animal protein in excess actually causes worse inflammation in your joints over time. In the beginning, it helps, but then over time, it makes it worse. So then they started modifying the paleo anti-inflammatory diet where they added more vegetables into it, right? Then it became 50%, you're on the Mediterranean diet. Perfect. Good. So the Mediterranean diet, anti-inflammatory, is more of a perfect diet. Okay. Just make sure you're not getting in the white carbs, simple carbs. Okay. Eat lots of fish, eat lots of fish with the omega-3 because those are anti-inflammatory and they can help lubricate your joints sometimes. Okay. So you do need to look at a hormonal component. I don't know if you are in perimenopause or already in menopause or you're in menopause. I assume you're in one of those stages. Okay. Or you just if you're in your 30s, and 40s, then you have a female sex hormone imbalance. Okay. I'm saying this because that you're saying that your osteoarthritis is worse at night. Okay. Now, I don't know your blood work, so this is all assumption. I am not saying that you are this is the cause. I'm telling you, if you were in our clinic, these are all the possible causes that we would go through. We would try to rule out. Now for us, 69. Yeah. So like I said, my assumption is correct. You're in menopause. So you still can have, even though maybe you didn't have the menopause symptoms before, but you could be going through them right now in the sense of that it's worse at night. Here's another thing to consider, that during the day, are you using your wrist and your hands, your left hand more? If you are, then of course at night it's going to be worse, right? With osteoarthritis, if you're bone on bone, this is what you're going to, this is what most of our patients that I've seen experience. First thing in the morning, it's stiff, painful, okay, because you haven't moved it. Once you start moving it, using it, it gets a little better, right? So in the morning, you start to use it, it gets a little better. And then by in the afternoon, in the evening, because you've used it too much, it gets worse again. Okay, that's typical osteoarthritis. So anti-inflammatory Mediterranean diet is a good thing to do. You want to do things that are going to help your bones and your tendons and ligaments. How do you do that? Well, you focus on the organs that control the health of your bones and the organ that focus on the health of your tendons and ligaments. I just talked about for tendons and ligaments, it's the liver, so helping the liver function. But in order to help it's in my long arm bones too. Could I have bone cancer undiagnosed? Just from your symptoms, there's no way you can tell if you have bone cancer or not. You do need to get blood work. Okay. They would need to do more extensive blood work. So that is something that your orthopedic or your family doctor needs to go in to look more details. They need to do more blood work. Okay. And so coming back to what you can do right now. Liver controls your tendons, kidney controls your bones. So you need to do things that are going to benefit your bones, right? One of the things that I like to tell people is even people with cancer, because they're going through chemotherapy, it's destroying their cells. You want to drink bone broth. This was discovered 3,000 years ago, okay? In the US, it's just recent. In the past 10 years, it's been popular. But in Chinese culture, it's been used for 3,000 years already. Bone broth. You get some beef bones, cook the bones, okay? First, wash the beef bones because there's a lot of dirty stuff on it. Wash the beef bones, boil the beef bones for at least 4 to 5 hours. You can put it in a crock pot and just boil it throughout the day. You want to get that bone marrow. You can also there are supplements that have bone broth, right? The collagen. Collagen helps your tendons. So I would drink a bone broth with collagen. You can get the powder supplements. This is what we do in our clinic because cooking beef bones takes forever and it also stinks up the house, right? So most of our patients don't like to do it. So we have a bone broth protein powder that we give them to drink, right? And drink that every single day. But I would first get some blood work to make sure to rule out, if there is cancer. But based on your symptoms only, you cannot diagnose, right? So this is the weakness, I would say the mistakes of Western medicine is to use patient symptoms to diagnose a problem. You'll notice when you tell them all the symptoms, then they're like, oh, we need to get imaging, we need to get blood tests. That is the correct way, right? To diagnose, and this is, holistic practitioners make this mistake as well by using symptoms to diagnose a patient. In our clinic, we never use symptoms to diagnose a patient. Okay, we always use our diagnostics, my diagnostics. It's called functional pulse diagnosis. We always use a diagnostic tool to diagnose a patient, not by symptoms. So we use our functional pulse diagnosis along with blood work, along with imaging to come up with a more accurate diagnosis. Now, the diagnosis we come up with in our clinic is not a disease name. The diagnosis we come up with is we determine which organs in your body is dysfunctioning because that is the root cause. Okay? You had blood work done. It was a yearly exam. A yearly exam is not detailed enough, especially if it was done by a family physician who is not trained to really understand the blood work, right? Most family physicians, they just look at one column out of range, right? And if they don't see a lot of things out of range, this is what they will tell you. You're fine. Everything's fine. You're normal. I'll see you next year, right? If you have a physician that does that, you need to switch a physician because they're not paying attention to, like, when you go through a stoplight, let's just say green light means you're healthy, everything's good. Yellow light means, hey, something's happening already. Red light means warning. Something has already happened. Damage has already occurred, right? So when you go and look at your blood tests, this is what our clinic does for our patients, because most physicians do not do this for their patients. So that's why, my team is trained to look at blood work and to identify all of those yellow lights that are saying, all of those indicators on your blood test that are telling you something is already brewing, a disease process is already starting. My team is trained to identify those, and then we point those out, and we take those in conjunction with my functional pulse diagnosis. That's how we determine which organ systems are already dysfunctioning. We can determine which ones are already dysfunctioning so that we can stop it and nip it in the bud before it becomes a full-blown red light problem, right? Now, for a physician, you need to find a physician, usually someone trained in functional medicine. Not always, but any physician that is trained to identify those yellow lights, right? Even when things are not in the normal range, let's say a normal range is like this, but if the lab value is close to either end of the range, that's a yellow light. Something is already happening, okay? So you need to start doing something about it, okay? And your liver, in a normal blood work, even when you do a comprehensive metabolic panel, that doesn't mean your liver and kidney are fine, right? Blood work does not show everything. Blood work does not show everything. Now, what does blood work show you? Blood work shows you that your liver and your kidney are not damaged to the point where they are dying. That's what blood work shows you. But blood work does not show you if they are dysfunctioning. Let's say your liver and kidney are supposed to function at 100%. Blood work will only show up when it's close to, when it's, I would say, under 50%. When it's functioning under 50%, that's when it's like red light, right? It's like a red flag. Something is really, your organs are really damaged. But let me ask you this. You will get symptoms. Your body will give you symptoms when your organ functions drop below 100%. So between 50% and 100%, blood work's not going to pick that up. Then how do you know? Then how do you detect that? That's where my functional pulse diagnosis detects. I detect between that 50% and 100%, which is suboptimal functioning. Blood work detects 50% and lower, right? It's an emergency situation. So if your blood work comes back normal, that just means, okay, your organs are functioning Is it 50%? I'm just making up that number. I don't know the exact number. But my point is, it's telling you your liver and your kidney are not about to just die. That's what blood work tells you. But it does not tell you, it does not reveal to you, is your liver and kidney functioning at 100%? I guarantee you, if you ask your physicians, hey, my blood work is normal, does that mean my organs are functioning at 100%? They will not say yes. If they do, they're lying to you because they cannot detect that from blood work. That's not what blood work detects. Okay. So your kidney and liver could be functioning at 70%, which for other people is phenomenal, but for your body is not. Again, that's just an example. I'm not saying this is for you. I'm just using an example, right? So that's why you need, and also there's additional blood work that can be done. Like the comprehensive metabolic panel are a yearly exam. They do a CBC, complete blood count, and a comprehensive metabolic panel. That is it most of the time. You need to do additional, right? There is possible, for example, I'll just give you an example. My dad recently had liver problem. So they had to do additional blood work on his liver. The basic ones didn't show up. I mean, they did, but the basic ones weren't enough, right? So, for example, liver enzymes, comprehensive metabolic panel, they only test for 2 liver enzymes, AST, ALT. There's other liver enzymes like GGT, right? That's actually more of a bile duct enzyme, right? That's not done in the normal routine blood work. Okay, so that's just an example, right? And even kidney, they don't test creatinine CK, creatinine kinase. They don't test further, urinalysis. They do basic urinalysis, but not for ultra sensitive creatinine. Sorry, not creatine, creatinine, kidney waste, right? So they don't test that unless you ask them. You got to push for it, right? So okay, so so you need to do, so what I would say is, Leanne, you need to go ask your physician, do more extensive blood work. If they aren't willing to do it, find another physician that is willing to do it. Okay. You also need to, I would find a Chinese medicine practitioner that, not just anyone, that diagnoses through the pulse, feeling the pulse. If a Chinese medicine practitioner uses your symptoms, there's going to be a guessing game. It's going to take longer. Okay. And that also, I think Missy asked that question. Is there a way I could find a clinic in my area that is like ours? Here's Missy wrote, but there is no other clinic that does what we do in the US, unfortunately. Okay. What my team does in our clinic is nothing that was learned. It is nothing that Chinese medicine school teaches. What my team does, all of it was developed by me. The pulse was developed by me. How we prescribe herbs and supplements was developed by me. How we do my QRA, quick restorative acupuncture, was also developed by me. The things that we learned in Chinese medicine school only produced about 50% results. That's why we don't do any of that. So I created my own techniques because I was not satisfied with the results that my patients were getting, only 50% results. So I went out, looked for teachers, masters, and created my own. And now our clinic generates at least 80 to 90% results for all of our patients. So you're not going to find it. But to get something close, it's kind of what I just recommend, Leanne. Find someone that diagnoses, a Chinese medicine clinic that can diagnose using pulse diagnosis, right? Not by symptoms. We were taught to do it by symptoms. Symptoms is going to be less accurate. Okay. And whoever you go to, make sure what they're diagnosing is they're trying to figure out which organs are dysfunctioning. That's the purpose of the diagnosing. You need to find one that is focused on finding the organ's function and knows how to restore that organ function. If they're just looking at your symptoms, like for example, Leanne's just, oh, less pain, right? Less pain, and then they go, oh, we fixed you. Okay. You need to switch to another clinic. They are no different from just giving you a pill, right? Someone that is only focused on symptoms is not solving your problem. Unless you only care about symptoms, then you can go to any clinic, any Chinese medicine clinic. But if you're not, if your concern is about fixing the problem, and what I mean by my definition of fixing the problem is, yes, your symptoms improve or go away, but more importantly, your body is able to heal your body by itself. So that means without even my team's help, without acupuncture, without herbs, without supplements, just through your diet and exercise. That's my definition of fixing a problem, that your body can return to healing it by itself. Now, not everybody can get to that point because you've damaged your body throughout the years. Not everybody's body can heal itself 100% by itself. So you may need to do some preventative stuff for the rest of your life. Okay. But look for a clinic that focuses on helping you restore your function and can help you get your body as close to healing itself by itself, even without acupuncture, without herbs. Okay, so I hope that helps, guys. It's great questions, right? Great questions. And this is, this is the process that if you were to come to our clinic, my team would take you through. Okay, thank you everybody for showing up. Next week, same time, Sundays, it'll be 6 a.m. Taiwan time or 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. We'll see you this next week, same time, same channel. Peace.